What's up, Waffles? I'm Aaron.
I'm Sam.
This is There We Are Then, and here we are. Tonight's episode, we're talking about a book. It's a book that Sam recommended to me, and I devoured it. Um, it's called Tribe by Sebastian Junger.
Younger.
Younger. And yeah, it speaks to what our podcast is about. Um, so Sam's going to get us started with a quote, and then we'll get rolling.
Might be a little more than a quote. I'm long winded. You'll find that out. In my pack, I had a tent and sleeping bag, a set of aluminum cook pots, and a Swedish made camping stove that ran on gasoline and had to be pressurized with a thumb pump. That, and a week's worth of food, was all I had with me outside Gillette, Wyoming that morning when I saw a man walking toward me up the on ramp from town. From a distance, I could see that he wore a quilted old canvas union suit and carried a black lunchbox. I took my hands out of my pockets and turned to face him. He walked up and stood there studying me. His hair was wild and matted, and his union suit was shiny with filth and grease at the thighs. He didn't look unkindly, but I was young and alone, and I watched him like a hawk. He asked me where I was headed. California, I said. He nodded. How much food do you got? He asked. I thought about this. I had plenty of food, along with all the rest of my gear, and he obviously didn't have much. I'd give my food to anyone who said he was hungry, but I didn't want to get robbed, and that's what seemed was about to happen. Oh, I just got a little cheese, I lied. I stood there, ready, but he just shook his head. You can't get to California on just a little cheese, he said. You need more than that. The man said that he lived in a broken down car and that every morning he walked 3 miles to a coal mine outside of town to see if they needed fill-in work. Some days they did, and some days they didn't. And this was one of the days that they didn't. So I won't be needing this, he said, opening his black lunchbox. I saw you from town and just wanted to make sure you were okay. The lunchbox contained a bologna sandwich, an apple, and a bag of potato chips. The food had probably come from a local church. I had no choice but to take it. I thanked him and put the food in my pack for later and wished him luck. Then he turned and made his way back down the on-ramp toward Gillette. I thought about that man for the rest of my trip. I thought about him for the rest of my life. He'd been generous, yes, but lots of people are generous. What made him different was the fact that he'd taken responsibility for me. He'd spotted me from town and walked half a mile out a highway to make sure I was okay. Robert Frost famously wrote that home is the place where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. The word tribe is far harder to define, but a start might be the people you feel compelled to share the last of your food with. For reasons I'll never know, the man in Gillette decided to treat me like a member of his tribe. This book is about why that sentiment is such a rare and precious thing in modern society, and how the lack of it has affected us all. It's about what we can learn from tribal societies, about loyalty and belonging and the eternal human quest for meaning. It's about why, for many people, war feels better than peace, and hardship can turn out to be a great blessing, and disasters are sometimes remembered more fondly than weddings or tropical vacations. Humans don't mind hardship. In fact, they thrive on it. What they mind is not feeling necessary. Modern society has perfected the art of making people not feel necessary. It's time for that to end.
That is far and away time for that to end. Uh, you know, I hear that and I've read it, and it stung, right? I've talked about, we've talked about the fact that I sometimes feel out of phase
Mm-hmm.
with everybody else, right? And I'm kind of finding that a lot of that off shift seems to be that I am on my path of recovery. You're on your path of recovery. I am not here to suffer. I am not here to be unhappy. I'm not here to be sad. I'm not here to be broken. And a lot of society today feels like you just got to be broken. And you're just broken. And that's just the way that it is. But, you know, as he's found, right? He thought he was going to get robbed. And it turned out this guy walked out of his way to share with him. And that's just something that we've forgotten as a society, is that we're here to help each other. It doesn't work alone. Nothing works alone. You can't find success and attribute it 100% to yourself.
There's no way.
There's no way.
Yeah, there's it does not. There are people who might say, I did this by myself. That's just not the case. You had support from somewhere, whether that's you having a support network a support network that helped pick you up during the failure portion of your success, or if someone gave you the means to get to your success. There isn't any one person who has succeeded alone.
Yeah.
And this book puts into, I believe, stark relief how important it is to have what he is referring to as a tribe. And that is a group, support network, a place. It is something where you have other humans that are either have had similar experience, come from the same area. There's any number of things. But the large part about it is taking responsibility for each other, taking responsibility for each other's success, taking responsibility for each other's failures, and helping everyone through that. And you can see that in small communities. You can see that in microcosms throughout the United States and Western society. But our Western society, our way of life, also is predicated almost on taking advantage and maximizing profit and maximizing, what you can make. And there is not a lot of room for sharing, for taking responsibility like you would have within a tribal society. And yeah,
Well, the definition of tribe is a social division in traditional society consisting of families or communities linked by social, economic, religious, or blood ties with a common culture and dialect, typically having a recognized leader.
And the thing about a tribe, though, is you may have a recognized leader, but if that leader starts abusing their power, if they start abusing their position, then they are removed by the group. They will be stood up to by the group. And in studied tribal societies, they talk a lot about like a dominant male who will abuse their position of physical power, and then all of the other males in the tribe will then overturn them, dethrone them, so to speak. So yeah, it is
And it's not necessarily one person in charge.
It's usually a group of people in charge.
Outline in the book certain tribes where when they hit a wartime, right, when they're gearing up for battle, as they are getting ready to go, these group of men take over.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the warrior leaders for the tribe.
Like Sparta.
Like Sparta.
Yeah.
Right? And then as soon as the war is done, or as soon as the battle is done, or whatever the outcome is, it changes.
Mm-hmm.
They step out of power, and usually, he says it was almost female, or
You have a matriarchal society
matriarchal
that will
society.
take over for the rest of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's just the way it is. The nurturing, the caring, the running of the tribe does not need to be done with the harsh hand of the warrior leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So they found that, there's two different groups that will lead the tribe in different times.
Yes.
And we don't have that in normal society today.
In Western society.
In Western society.
Yeah. There's a very clear hierarchy of power that, it's a triangle, right? You've got a very small minority with most of the power, the money, the whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get further down that pyramid, it's like almost like a class system, kind of like they had in India, or in almost feudal. We break it up into classes.
He calls it egalitarian.
Yeah, and we break it up into classes in Western society in the United States, right? You've got poor people, you've got the working class, then you've got the lower middle class, the upper middle class, then you have the wealthy, and then you have the obscenely wealthy.
Insanely wealthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He talks about them in his book.
Uh-huh.
This book gets there. So my tribe, growing up, was the people I grew up with, right? My brothers, my friends, schoolmates, whatever. Later in life, it expands, right? I joined many different tribes. I was in the Army, I was a police officer, I was a fireman, and each one of those is a similar tribe.
But also very different.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And while they can commingle, there are some stark contrasts and differences.
Yes.
Right? When I was in the military, it was not uncommon for me as a leader to have my guys over to my house to share a meal. You're part of my family. The guys that couldn't go home for holidays, the guys that couldn't afford to, or they lived too far away. Well, you're going to Sergeant Walter's house for dinner, right? Come on in, we're going to have dinner, and that becomes your tribe. And it's important, I feel, as a leader, to take care of your people like that. Now, I left the Army and joined law enforcement, and that tribe is completely different, right? Where I lived and I worked with the guys in the Army, I did not live with my brothers in blue, right? You're on a shift together. You're working this block together. You're working this district together. You're working whatever together. And while you may be travel together, it's not as strong, I feel. But when I joined the firehouse, it was the exact opposite, right? Our entire crew, our entire unit day was a family. We lived every third day with each other. You better get comfortable, and you better figure it out. Because if you don't figure it out, there's going to be some battles, right? And it's just the way it is. But the loss of that, when you leave the service, it's what's next, right? It goes into like how do you continue being a part of this tribe tangentially when you're not doing that job anymore.
It is. So my experience with my tribes as a kid, very similar. I had my friends, I had my sports teams, which often were my friends, and you know, through school had schoolmates, and you know, your friend group kind of shifts and changes, and you know, I feel really lucky that I had a you know, I have a friend who I made when I was 6 years old. I'm 46 now, so I've known him for 40 years. Um, yeah, I met him right after I turned 6 years old, um, and that was 1985. So, um, you know, I've had my best friend in my life for 40 years, and then I had a core group of friends that I went through, you know, junior high, high school, you know, that sort of, and it's almost like you orbit each other to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they come, they go, but they come back, and you do the same, right? So, and then I foundered. You know, I really foundered after school, after high school, and you know, I wasn't playing sports. I wasn't doing anything really great, and I foundered, and I was, you know, looking back on it, depressed. Um, you know, hindsight being what it is, I know that now. Then I was just like, whatever, life sucks. Ugh. Um,
That's the first sign of grief, right? You're mourning the loss of your group.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, part of my group had moved on. You know, they were moving forward in the direction of their life, and I just sort of floated and did a bunch of stuff. And then a really great friend of mine joined the Marine Corps, and he came back from boot camp, and he, you know, we were having a welcome home party and all of that, and you know, he pulled me off to the side, and he's just like, "Hey, man, you've been talking about joining the Coast Guard for years. Like, why don't you just go do that, right? Like, that would be good for you." And I wouldn't tell any of the other guys this, but like, I know that if you want to do it, you're going to do it. And that really galvanized me. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do that. And so off I went, saw the recruiter, you know, had to get in a little bit better shape, and then whammy, off I was running. And um, Coast Guard is interesting because it's like a combination of what you described in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Like my experiences are very similar in that aspect, and they're also very similar to what you had in the firehouse, because depending on the type of unit I was at personally, I either worked on a ship where you would be on that ship for 3+ months with the same people, and you learn to hate each other with love. Uh, it's with love, but you hate each other.
Yes.
And you had limited, tiny space available to you to hide, and the only thing hiding you was a curtain, or you had to find a hiding place on the ship. Um, you know, but you did love each other. You did care about each other, and no matter how many times, much like siblings, you're going to fight, you're also going to support each other. You're gonna back each other up and take care of each other. Um, and then the other type of unit I spent my career at was small boat stations, which operate very similar to a firehouse: 48 on, 48 off, every other weekend. And that's your family.
Mm-hmm.
When you're there for 48 to 72 hours straight, like you said, you better figure it out.
Yep.
You better figure it out. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for you.
Oh yeah.
So
I remember days getting on the truck and just like, I don't want to ride this truck with any of you fuckers today,
yeah,
but I'm gonna, and I'm gonna be grateful for it afterwards.
yeah,
Maybe, or maybe we end up in the bay grappling a
Yeah.
little bit, right?
yeah,
But you know, there is turbulation
oh yeah,
inside of a tribe, but it's usually able to be figured out, right? And a lot of times it was you would get thrown in the barrel, right? You're the monkey in the barrel, and you're just getting whipped,
Yeah.
and you're just in the barrel for the day, right?
That's where you're at, and there's nothing you're going to do about it but be in the barrel.
Right.
So
Or over it.
embrace the suck. But that's also part of it, right? There's this big unifier that you have a mission set or a job or whatever it is that brings you all together, that will galvanize you to do amazing, great, fantastic things, things that you would never have thought you were capable of. And and some of those things are highly traumatic, highly traumatic. But together, you can push through, and you have a almost homemade, built-in support network.
Yep.
Because you've all done the same thing. You've all been in the same suck, and you know it really it's impressive. And then to leave that, you know, I'm at a different point in my journey, right? I'm what I'll be 2 years removed in October.
Okay.
So
And I got out in 2013, so I am 12 years removed.
yeah.
Right. So I've moved past the military portion.
Yep.
And the law enforcement portion, and the fire portion really for me has been a stumbling block.
And that's
right.
And that's the most recent one.
It's the most recent, and it was the most connected group that I've been a part of.
That's my experience with the station. So
because we did everything together, right? We were on duty together. We spent time off duty together. Our families were friends. We all hung out together. And when you leave that system, that's a loss.
you're hanging.
Yep.
You're out by yourself. You're in space by yourself. And for people who have been in a military or the fire department, police department, or paramilitary, you know, there's a hierarchy, there's a rank structure, there is a mission set, there is a unifying goal, and it is a service. You are providing a service to your community, to the public, and all of a sudden to not have a mission.
Right.
You were always able, while you were in, whether the fire service, police department, military, what's the next mission? You went from one to another to another to another, and that was just what it was, whether it was, you know, training or we got to go clean the rig, we got to go, you know, polish brass, we got whatever the lame or awesome or terrifying thing that you were doing, there was always the next mission, and you had to get ready, you had to, you know, so it just never ended, and it makes us driven in a way towards that mission. And my failure, right? I wanted to get out, and to me, my mission was my family. That's my mission now. That's not a mission. That's your life.
Yep.
That's your life. That's a lot of things, but it is not a day-to-day mission. It is not something that you can use as a guide-on to get you where you're going. So yeah, it's that
They're there to help you get to where you're going, but they are not
where you are going.
where you're going.
Yeah.
Right? They're going with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're there to help them get where they're going, hopefully. So yeah, and losing that tribe, losing that connectedness is...
It leads to us feeling disconnected. It leads to us feeling transactional and isolated, right? Because now in our careers, it's a transactional working with people.
Yes, very much so.
Right.
Especially in the retail field.
That's how it is just in society, is it's almost become transactional, right? I don't want to talk to you unless I absolutely have to. Why do I need to talk to you?
Yes.
I just want to, I want to DoorDash all my groceries. I want to be able to have everything come to me, or just walk in, get it, and walk out and not associate with people. I feel that's something that's grown massively since
Post COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, post COVID.
2019,
Holy
2020.
smokes.
Like, I remember before COVID, hanging out with my kids' friends' parents, right? Everybody would get together on the street and you would hang out. And COVID hit, and it's stay the fuck away from me, right? And we haven't conquered that.
Not it was like COVID was the anti-tribe. It broke those. And I do see, tonight we were at trivia.
Mm-hmm.
And part of going to do that is trying to create that connection of a tribe. And it's a small thing, but it's an important thing because it is connecting you to people. It is. We've been real lucky. We've met some really cool people at our trivia. It's not the same as what we had.
No.
But it is that search. And so when people there, you can see it to a degree where people will go to try and find a connection. And what I see a lot of lately, probably over the last decade, has been political polarization.
Absolutely.
You identify yourself by your political affiliation, not by what you bring to the table, not by what other people bring to the table, but by what you politically believe. And it has created a
rift.
A rift.
A massive rift.
That is getting, in my opinion, wider and wider and wider, because people are becoming much more insular within their self-identified tribe. And the person, there might be people that you identify with, whatever political affiliation you are, that are awful, terrible human beings that are just taking complete advantage of everyone around them, everything around them, or situational type things where they will abuse this false sense of tribe as opposed to really looking at what the good in everyone and what everyone is providing. And it's causing more separation. So you have that polarization politically. You've got, race has been an issue in this country since its inception. So there's those issues.
Inception.
Thank you. Yes, the country's inception.
Not since race's inception.
Yes. Although that
I mean, but it tracks.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same statement.
Yeah. And so you've got a lot of ways that people will separate themselves out into their tribes. And being tribal, if you look back at the history of it, there was a lot of violence. There was warfare. There was all of those things. But the overall health of the people, the mental health of the people within that tribe, was stronger.
Yes.
Rates of suicide
Dropped.
They
didn't. Well, I have it open.
Excellent.
Let's get into that.
Much lower than in Western society.
So he talks about in the first part of the book how it's a difficult thing to study among unacculturated tribal peoples because the earlier explorers, they didn't conduct ethnographic research, right? He says that suicide was reserved, in very narrow circumstances. Old age to avoid burdening the tribe, the ritual paroxysm of grief following the death of a spouse. Like, I just cannot live without her anymore. In a hopeless but heroic battle with an enemy, and in an attempt to avoid the agony of torture, you know. And then after smallpox, if you were severely disfigured, you would take yourself out of the tribe. But that was seen as almost a healthy and good thing,
A
because
noble.
you're cleansing yourself from the tribe. And in modern society, he talks about it's as high as 25 cases per 100,000 people.
And right now, white middle-aged men currently have the highest rate of nearly 30 suicides per 100,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, it affects everybody.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you're poor, it doesn't matter if you're wealthy, it doesn't matter if you have everybody around you or nobody around you. It leads to that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, the other side of battle or the job or whatnot is the isolation, right? PTSD makes you want to isolate. I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want to hurt more. So if I can't hurt you by being away from you, better for you. I may be suffering, but better for you to not have my suffering near you. And it's you know, that's wrong, because we're all fucking suffering from something, right? So I sit here and I don't want to burden you with my suffering, and you sit there and you don't want to burden me with your suffering, but we're suffering together, and that is a way forward, right? Your suffering, I may know how to help you with yours, and you may know how to help with mine. But if we don't talk about it and we keep it locked in, like we do, right? We do. It's not your problem, it's my problem. I'm fine, I'm good, I'm dealing with it on my own.
Yeah, I can make it, I'm strong.
And that's just not the truth, right? In our suffering, it builds that community. Yes, we're suffering, but we're suffering together. And you see him talk about it during the bombing run, during the bombing in World War II.
The Blitz
the
in
Blitz,
London, yeah.
And how it was disheartening to people when the US decided to bomb Germany, because they saw how it emboldened the people of London. It made them, you know, they missed the Blitz. There's people that talk about, oh, I long for a night of the Blitz.
There was
right?
It was the great unifier.
Because everybody was living in underground
in the
bunkers,
tube.
in
Yeah.
the tube.
Yep.
They were all together, and you were suffering, but you were suffering together.
And it didn't matter if you were rich or poor or anywhere. It didn't matter who you were all in it together, and that was a great unifier. And it also, the Blitz had the opposite effect of what they wanted. Not just Germany, but when you look at what we were doing in retaliation, when we were firebombing, you know, Dresden, when we were firebombing,
Yes.
you know, all of those other places, as opposed to breaking the will and the spirit of the people.
It emboldens them.
And it galvanizes them again. It brings them together to say, we're not going to break.
No.
And, you know, it's the concept of like 1 stick, easy to break. 5 sticks, harder to break. 1,000 sticks,
You're not breaking
You're not
it.
breaking
it's
it.
a tree.
Yep.
It's a tree at that point.
Yeah. And so it really, again, going back to the beginning, right? Like, humans are built for suffering.
Right.
Well, that's not the right way.
We're built to handle suffering.
He puts it better. It's humans don't mind hardship. In fact, they thrive on it. So, and if you are in a situation where there's hardship, but it's a necessary hardship that you are going through and you're going to come out the other side and you're doing it together, holy smokes.
It brings meaning and interdependence.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we saw it after 9/11, right?
Talk about
The meaning and interdependence of the country just came together. And you still see groups looking for that today,
oh,
right?
we were talking about it the other day,
We
the
were
Tea
talking
Party.
about the Tea Party movement
Yeah.
tried to capture that, right? The we're gonna throw the tea into the harbor and take apart the government, and we're gonna do great things to make this community better again. Didn't work. It was politically polarizing. It is a message for one side, one group, and not the many groups, right? And now we're seeing it again. We see it with the MAGA side, Make America Great Again. It's amazing to see people coming together in solidarity for the country. It ain't your country. It's everybody's country. We're all citizens here. We're all together in this shit. But the left does it too, right?
Absolutely.
They make their tribes up and they identify them, and you either belong to those tribes or you do not.
You're either an ally or a member.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's problematic. It's that polarization that is causing the rift, and it's just getting wider and wider and wider, as opposed to
There's no interdependence.
no.
There's no, I understand your tribe. I may not agree with it, but I understand it, and you're allowed to be that way.
Yeah.
It's, you don't exist. Just don't even be here right now. And that's just wrong. Welcome people into your group. Welcome. The best thing that I can do is disagree with somebody and have a discussion where we both come away with a different opinion, right? We both come away with gained something,
And
and that makes me better. That makes them better. It makes us better.
I don't know where it, because it used to be that you could disagree with someone on something, but you're still friends. You still respect them as a person. You still respect. I don't agree with your ideology. I don't agree with your religion. I don't agree with your whatever it is. But you're able to still say, doesn't matter though. At the end of it, you're a good person. You are a human being and worthy of respect from that.
Pass the mashed potatoes.
Yep.
Right.
And let's keep going. Just right. I'm sure at the firehouse, we talked about this, right? You can disagree with somebody. You could be on polar opposites of a discussion point, and I'm sure you've heard silly ones. I had one of my favorite ones, one of the favorite conversations I ever sat and listened to while I was in, was someone who said dinosaurs didn't exist, but believed that we had landed on the moon, countered by somebody who said dinosaurs did exist, but we definitely did not go to the moon. And that discussion went back and forth for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, it was like they'd come together, they would disagree, and then, but by the same token, later that night, we had an issue, and everybody rogered up, everybody responded, and nobody had any animosity, even though they disagreed. And I know it's a silly thing but I mean, they were so passionate about it.
Think about some of the most silly things that we argue about, right? We argue, I mean, there are people today who will walk away from you because of who you voted for.
Yes.
And that is abjectly insane in my brain.
100%.
I don't understand. You may not like the person I voted for, and I may not like the person you voted for, but there's common ground there to find. You wanted something, I wanted something. We both have a vision, and it's pretty damn similar. So,
It goes back to, are you a good person?
Are
Right.
you a good person?
That's at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Do you do your very best Do you do your best to do the right thing? Now, I may not agree with what the right thing is with you, but do you try to improve yourself and those around you? And then at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you voted for, because
Well, he talks about it here in the book, right?
he absolutely does.
He talks about the fact that 2008 happened, and our government bailed out their friends, right? And it's almost a call to action where he names the people who probably should spend some time in prison. But instead of spending time in prison for the financial fuck ups that they created, they walked with golden parachutes. They walked with more money for fucking up than is proper.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I saw it as almost a call to action to, like, this is a goal. Come together on this. This is one thing that everybody in this fucking nation can agree upon. These people stole a ton of money from us, and it has hurt our society.
I believe it actually says it's between fraud. I think it between and it's primarily in insurance fraud. Insurance fraud, specifically Medicare, Medicaid. That's doctors. That's hospitals. That's people.
That's insurance companies.
That's
the whole system.
And it costs the American taxpayer $5,000 a year. That's insane.
It's
insane.
It is.
Right? The people who got bailed out during the financial crisis of 2008, like you said, they walked away. They knew what they were doing.
They knew it was wrong. They knew it was sketch.
And they walked away set with not even a slap on the wrist, not even a you shouldn't have done that. It was, here you go.
Right.
And that's hopefully something that everyone who didn't walk away from those situations, that were in charge of the banking and the mortgage lenders, everyone who didn't walk away from that situation in one of those positions should feel, to this day, barring your birth date being after 2005, you should walk away from that feeling very frustrated, because we are still to this day feeling the impacts of that.
Absolutely feeling the impacts. And I'm not saying it's a call to action for vigilante stuff.
No.
Right? Not even close. But you can see where vigilante comes in on this type of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
You get the right mind frame, but if we just came together a little bit and said, you know what, government, you need to put these people in fucking jail, they would have no choice but to do it.
There needs to be, I see what you're saying about call to action. It's not necessarily a call to violence.
No.
It's a call to fix it and change what we are kind of operating from as the norm. This idea that, the haves get to do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, and there is little to no repercussions. Because in a tribal society, those people would have been ousted from the tribe, and that...
They wouldn't have been ousted from the tribe. They probably would have been... They would have been ousted from the tribe.
They might have been executed.
They'd have been executed.
But
right? You hurt the tribe in a way that is almost irrecoverable, you done.
Well, he does talk about how one of the things is that if you did get ousted from the tribe, a lot of the time, depending on where you were, that was a death sentence, because you cannot survive. And the funny thing is, looking back at, or having gone, this is the third time I've read this book, and it is phenomenal. I can't recommend it strongly enough. It takes an exceptionally heavy subject, but it does not feel heavy while you are reading it.
Not even a little bit.
It is short. It is so short.
136 pages. So you could digest this book in a week.
Yeah.
Or a little bit longer if you need more time. But it is such an easy read. I devoured it in a couple of days.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is
just,
yeah.
I needed it.
Yeah, and it is, again, it's a heavy subject. There are heavy subjects in here that, for whatever reason, the author, Sebastian Junger, is able to make palatable. Yeah, palatable is the right word.
Yep.
Where it doesn't feel heavy or, using the parlance of our time, triggering.
Correct.
Right? It doesn't evoke a lot of negative emotions or anything like that, but it is in there. There's a lot of stuff in there that's negative, that are heavy subjects, not negative, but heavy.
Can be seen as negative.
Yes.
They're heavy, but if you look at them through the eyes of the book, they are heavy, but they're not insurmountable.
No.
And all it takes is a little bit of coming together.
Yeah.
Right? And I almost think that's one of the reasons that he put the financial crisis in here, right? Is, look, I'm giving you something that you guys are already, you have common ground on this. There is not a person in the United States worth less than $1 billion that was not touched by the financial impact or by the financial crisis.
It's one of the reasons why we see 70-year-olds still working full-time jobs.
Yes.
So it is, people who took advantage of their tribes would 100% have been booted at the least, if not executed. They would have been, removed from the ability to benefit from the tribe's work. And the tribal life, really, he talks about it in there, it was easier.
It was.
You worked almost less. And when somebody was in a difficult strait or difficult circumstance, no one crapped on them because they couldn't provide for themselves. They couldn't hunt. They couldn't get food. They couldn't, whatever it was. The tribe shared and took care of that member or that person. I said, member, still stuck with that. One of the things we kind of talked about, and you had stated, for people who are leaving a service that mission oriented, so the military, law enforcement, fire, civil service, whatever it is.
Healthcare, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Having a group of people that have done that, who have also retired, left, transitioned away from it, having access to them as a support group. We were talking about a military base, right? And if people in that community around the military base.
Well, we had started talking about the Romans, right? The elder warriors lived amongst the young ones, right? It was, you looked to them for wisdom, you looked to them for guidance, you looked to them for how to fight, you looked to them for why not to fight, right? These were the people who helped you, bring you into the warrior tribe, right? They were the education. But the problem with them, in a large scale, was they didn't want you to fight. Find another way to not fight. They wanted war, but they didn't want to send their people, right? And so they would, that's why why there hasn't been warrior citizens since Rome, right? Because when they saw their country falling apart, when they saw their empire falling apart, they felt moved to do something about it. So you will never find another tribe like that again throughout history, I don't think. I don't think. Comment below.
Yeah,
Yeah, let us know if I'm way off the mark on that one.
because I feel like there are historical precedents for that. You again, Romans very obviously, but go back a little further. Look at Spartan.
I'm saying since.
Oh,
Since then, you really haven't had a warrior class inside of society.
you did have during medieval times, right? Like you had the feudal society, but you had the knights who were the warrior class, and their job was to uphold and protect and service. Yeah, and they were lords, and they were in positions of power, but their job was to samurai culture.
Samurai culture.
Yeah, that would be one, and that lasted. Oof.
They still talk about the samurai culture, how it affected them in World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? That samurai culture came with them all the way into World War II, and it still exists in theory, right? It's part of their cultural pride.
It's their cultural identity.
Yeah.
It's part of that.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that, perfection in all things. Strive for perfection in all things. So
I don't.
remember, Ron Swanson says, "Don't half-ass two things at the same time. Whole-ass one thing." So yeah, it's tough, right? I would say we have especially after the last 20 years, or the previous 20, 23, 24 years, that to a degree there exists a citizen warrior tribe in the United States. It's tiny by comparison to the rest of the population. However, I would say that the people that I know who are very active in especially the political sphere of things are wildly passionate about what they believe, but they also don't crap on the other side, right? If they one of their some of the most heated discussions I can remember centered around politics.
Always.
Yeah, and
always. We didn't talk about it at the firehouse.
Oh wow.
Like, we would talk about politics, but there came a point in time where there was a known limit to shut things down at, right? In a government service, there is you have to walk political lines, right? You just can't blow off at the freaking seams. You'll piss the entire crew off.
Oh no, yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm yeah, like our ship was pretty similar. Yeah.
You find that too. You'll find a lot of people are like-minded, and even if you're not, that's okay. And as long as you can have respectful discussions, that was something that I experienced a lot of. Like my personal political beliefs didn't always jive with other people, and I am a show me the receipts guy. Like that's how I am as a person. So again, the book is great because the last 20 plus pages,
it's like half the book is his resources.
yeah, are all sources, and I am very much a show me the receipts type of person. So if somebody wants to say something completely wild and outlandish, like, I will correct it, and you may have an idea because I'm correcting you or challenging what you're saying, that I'm somehow not like-minded, but that's not always the case. It's just
you may be wrong about something.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
Be wrong. That's okay. Acknowledge your wrongness. Educate yourself, right? Don't say you're doing your own research, because I sincerely doubt you've written a paper and had it peer reviewed, but that you are
Research is research, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not doing peer review research, but you're
that's-
still researching.
Again, that research is, again, right? Like, to me, it's an important word because research is indicative of you putting in a huge amount of effort to educate yourself on a very narrow thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not researching, you're educating. You're
Yes.
educating yourself. Be educated. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say you're wrong. I'm wrong all the time. All the time. That's okay because now I'm better. Now I've learned more. I may not like what I've learned. I may not want to accept what I've learned, but facts don't care how you feel. So
Nope.
you look at your facts. So that's another important thing, as part of a tribe, right? Being accountable. It's not just you take responsibility. I felt strong levels of responsibility if somebody was saying something that was factually incorrect. And I knew it was factually incorrect and I had the receipts to prove it. That was what I felt a responsibility to educate the
Right.
people I was with and the people I'm around. And that carries on to this day. Like, that's not something I've lost. It's a little bit more difficult because,
Well, you also have a responsibility to be educated.
yes,
And
Yeah.
it's not just about educating.
it's about being educated.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, I can know a Brazilian things, but are they correct?
That's always right. Like, my family jokingly says when I was younger, I wanted to be right a lot. So I had Sam facts. They would tease me about having a Sam fact. And I will say this, right? As much as it would frustrate me when I got called on a Sam fact, I would then, more often than not, and this is back in the day before the internet
You had to
existed.
have a card catalog. That was your internet, yo.
Yeah. So I would go to the library and I would read, or I'd find a newspaper and I would educate myself. And, as I got older, those Sam facts became fewer and fewer and further between. And I became more open to being told, nah, that's not right.
Correct.
And okay. And so there's that accountability, right? It's the accountability of saying, hey, I was wrong. That's okay, right? I learned. I'm allowed to change my opinion. I'm allowed to change what I think based off of new information, as long as that information, again, has the receipts that's factual.
Right.
So that can be a tough thing, but that's all part of being in a tribe, wanting the best for the people around you, not just yourself. And it's not to change their mind. It's not to, trying to swing somebody politically, which I don't think that's even possible. You may vary a little bit, but I don't think that you're going to go from, if you are, again,
You're not going to take a conservative and turn them into a liberal.
Yeah.
And you're not going to take a liberal and turn them into a conservative.
no, but there's common ground to be
But
found.
there's common ground to be found.
Yeah.
And, they may not be flying over to your side, but they may be seeing your side, which is something that they didn't before.
Yeah, and that's
And the more visible you can be to each other, the better.
absolutely.
And it's not about, being seen. It's making yourself visible. It's making yourself open to varying degrees of information. Right? It's the ability to intake stuff and think about it and put it back out so that it's understood. Right?
Absolutely, that's a very important thing. Outside of talking about a tribe or a group or whatever terminology you want to use, being able to articulate your point and being able to listen and accept, not necessarily agree, but accept the point that somebody else is trying to make, and still finding that common ground of, even if it is as small as you're a human and therefore worthy of my respect.
Correct.
Until you prove that you're a giant POS. Because if you do that, then you don't deserve my respect. But most people are not giant POSs. Everybody has bad days. You may run into somebody who's having a terrible day, and they can come across as a giant POS, and if you meet them again later in life, they've got a big hole to dig out of. But most people...
I'm a giant POS. Just ask my former spouse.
Oh. That's... that is a subject I'm not willing to touch.
Oh, yeah.
Not right now.
No, maybe down the road.
That's it's a tough thing, but everyone that you interact with, everyone that you meet, is worthy of the respect of being treated as a human. And unless they prove otherwise, you give them that common respect. The idea that, would you talk to your friend, family member? Would you treat them the same way? Would you treat them as less than you want them to be treated, someone in your family or your friend group? So, my friend group, we're not always nice to each other. But again, it's always out of love.
It's always out of love.
Yeah.
So I guess we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think, this is where we talk about what we're going to do, what we're trying to do. And I think what we're trying to do is to build our own little tribe. Hopefully not a little tribe. Hopefully we flood this bitch. Because the more people who watch this, the more people who give us feedback, the more people who, I've already gotten one episode in, thank you, right? I've already gotten a thank you for, we didn't do anything. We told our stories, we introduced ourselves.
Barely, yeah.
Barely, right? And I've already got people saying, I can't wait to see what you guys do with this. And so I think what we're trying to do is build a group. We're trying to build a tribe. Not physically, but we're trying to open up, right? We're trying to bring people into the fold. We're trying to help veterans and service people and all across.
Everyday people.
Everyday people. It's not ubiquitously service-oriented, right? This is things that everybody struggles with.
Absolutely.
And so, we're trying to build a digital firehouse, a digital boat. We're trying to build a safe space-ish.
Not safe as in you can't speak your mind.
You're not going to be safe here, but a safe space as in you're more than welcome to come here. I would love, I told my story. I would love to hear your story. I would love to, I wear this every day, right? It's not 22 a day, it's 21. Because on July 14, 2021, there wasn't 22, there was only 21. And if I could make that 21, 20, 19, 18, until there's none, that's what I'm here for. That's kind of my whole purpose for starting this, is because I'm not alone. And I know that there are other people out there that feel abjectly alone. And you don't have to, right? Shoot me a message. Shoot Sam a message. We'll talk to you.
100%.
Right? There's nothing. You just can't quit. Not today.
No. No matter how hard it is, you don't get to quit today.
You can quit tomorrow. Put that on that lazy motherfucker you in the future.
Yeah. Don't quit today. Take a second. Reach out to someone, to anyone. One of the ways that I really hope that we can start moving forward with this is also by getting resources, making that information more widely available and known. There are an insane number of resources for people who are alone, who need help, who are thinking of hurting themselves or others. There are, and it's there for people who are in the military, people who are law enforcement officers, every fire department, medical personnel, and everyday people. Every state has things that can help you. If you are a veteran, there are so many different veterans groups that want to help you. That is their sole goal in life. And so I hope that one of the things that we can do is provide those resources, provide access to those resources, giving that information out, sharing not just our stories, and bringing people in, whether that's one of you that's watching or listening to us right now, or if that's a professional or somebody who we just know or get suggested for us to meet and have on to share their journey, their path. That's what I'm hoping that we can do, because
Like to have this gentleman on.
it would be phenomenal to have.
So Sebastian Junger, if you're out there, if this gets in your hands, we'd love to talk to you about this book. We'd love to talk to you about how you feel about it and if we're even close to the mark.
Absolutely. Again, I've read this book. This was the third time I've read it, and each time I take something more from it, or there's something that I might have, been at a different point in my life, and therefore I think about it differently. I'd love to take an opportunity to interview you. I know we both would. And anyone who has a similar story, if there are book recommendations, if there's something that touches you,
Drop it in the comment below.
yeah, put it in the comments. Let us know. We may not get back to you right away, but we will get back to you, and it will be looked at. It's not that we're not going to take the opportunity.
We have nothing but time right now with our whole 20 subscribers. Let's boost those numbers, yo.
So absolutely.
But thank you again, right? Yeah, thank you to all of you that have watched. Thank you for joining us.
For those that have given feedback already, thank you. For those that are hopefully going to be giving us feedback, thank you as well. Feedback is a gift. It's not something that we don't want to hear. If you know of a way that we can provide better resources, provide better opportunities for everyone watching and listening, then we would love to hear from you.
Right. Yeah. So I guess we've come around that. So there we are then.
There we are then.
There we are then. What an episode, man. I am in love with this. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Have a good one.
See you, Waffles.